දවස් 30ක්ම unlimited Netflix බලන්න. unlimited data pack එකක් මුළු පවුලටම unlimited fun එකක් අරගන්න. අදම active කරගන්න.
ලෙන්ගතුකම වැඩි කරගන්න ලව්ජු රුපියල් 50ට අඩු කළා.
මාමේ එන්න අපිට එකක් බොමු.
Tonight, back to normal. Army Commander says isolation in some areas will be lifted after assessment, and Western Province travel restrictions only until midnight on November 15th. Fake news alert. Police say social media reports of roadside COVID-19 deaths in Sri Lanka are fake.
We have initiated an investigation on the fake news.
Expert opinion. Health Minister says no decision on COVID-19 burials until report finalised as UN Country Coordinator appeals to the PM. Go local. Joint Apparel Association Federation Secretary General Tuli Kure reveals Budget 2021 wish list.
Actions shall be taken to entice the competitive domestic industries to continue to manufacture inputs.
All that and much more coming up on First at 9 this Friday, the 13th of November 2020.
Nava sunlight sakura. Then Dikukal pavathina sakura mal suandin.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhammike Kanayaka. We have Sri Lanka's latest COVID-19 situation and today's proceedings at the Easter attacks PCOI for you later on in the bulletin. What's more, it was also an interesting day in Parliament. But before that, let's start with 2021 budget expectations. Now, with the government's inaugural budget set to be presented in Parliament next week, many vital industrial sectors are eagerly awaiting to see what relief may come their way. In the days leading up to the budget presentation, we will be taking perspectives of vital sectors to tell us what their budget wish list consists of. In today's segment, we spoke to Secretary General of the Joint Apparel Association Federation, Tuli Kure, who stated that in addition to those conventional requirements, such as reviewing tariffs, income taxation and export-oriented policies, building up to the country's local manufacturing capacity and digitalization seems to be top of the list of apparel sector needs.
We actually look forward for the budget to have specific measures to be taken. Point number one would be capital formation in order to create more and more additional capacity. It also has to be supporting the creation of industries which will be able to produce competitive products to be used by the local consumer and also by the local exporter. Export orientation will be an important element that we are expecting to be promoted in the budget in twofold. One, we should create an environment where our products will have access to external markets, which demands the new directions be given for the purpose of opening up a new trade dialogue with all the existing markets and emerging markets. That's one part of the story. The second part of the story is that the COVID-19 first wave gave us a very, very clear indication that as much as possible, you should have your own inputs, both for the domestic consumption and for the export orientation. Therefore, in the export orientation program, action shall be taken to entice the competitive domestic industries to continue to manufacture inputs and finished goods. I think Sri Lanka apparel industry has already requested specific support from the government by way of setting up a exclusive fabric manufacturing zone that will offer an opportunity to procure fabric to a great extent from the domestic market. The second program is actually reviewing of the existing policy framework relating to tariff, relating to income taxation and the policy framework that are in place, which are having a direct impact on the export orientation and on the production. So the third element that we are looking for is knowledge-based exports. In our industry, the apparel industry, the highest value addition takes place in the front end where creative ideas are converted to products. Those need to be encouraged. Finally, I think we are looking forward for the digitalization of the economy, and particularly if we have electronic documentation capability in transacting with the government, that will be an important element. I think those are the few basic things that we are expecting from the 2021 budget.
Safeguard hand sanitizer නවතම නිෂ්පාදන පෙළ නීරෝගිමත් දිවයකට ලංකාවේ පළමු වරට හඳුන්වා දෙන මැලිබන් වෙජි ක්‍රැකර්
Crunchy veggie.
Now, as promised, let's take a look at the pandemic situation. Our police today refuted social media claims that people in Sri Lanka are falling dead on roadside owing to COVID-19. The police media spokesperson said that those responsible for the fake social media posts will be dealt with by law. The country, however, confirmed 5 more coronavirus-related fatalities today.
Sri Lanka confirmed 5 more COVID-19 deaths today, taking the island's overall tally of coronavirus fatalities to 53. Among the 5 fatalities, all above the age of 50, are 4 men and a woman. 4 of the 5 persons to perish today had been suffering from underlying health conditions. Meanwhile, 198 new COVID-19 infections were confirmed in the country today, with 373 being reported yesterday. Out of the total number of infections confirmed yesterday, those reported from the Colombo district is 271. From the remainder, 46 cases were detected from the Gampaha district, 12 from Kaluthara, 10 from Kegol, 4 from Gaul, 2 from Polonnaruwa, and 1 each from Puttalam, Ratnapura, Hambantota, and Matale. Meanwhile, 20 police officers also tested positive for the virus, with 4 recent overseas returnees also being among the infections identified yesterday. As things stand, Sri Lanka's number of active COVID-19 cases have come down to 4,837, with 11,031 patients having fully recovered from the virus since it first broke out in the island in March. As the country battles to mitigate the spread of the virus, the importance of identifying what's true and what's fake news has become another challenge. With social media posts making rounds depicting what is alleged to be COVID-19 dead on roadside, police media spokesperson DIG Ajit Rohana today shed light on the truth pertaining to the allegations.
Another fake news is being circulated in the social media about the deaths of corona positive patients. According to that fake news, it was mentioned that plenty of dead bodies have been found on the street in respect of COVID positive patients. That is absolutely false. According to the statistics, 46 deaths have been reported. 1 out of 46 deaths is the only death that happened on the road is a beggar. Accordingly, we have initiated another investigation on the fake news that has been published in social media.
UN Resident Coordinator in Sri Lanka, Hannah Singer, has written to Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa on the COVID-19 burial issue. In her letter, Singer reiterates UN concerns with existing Ministry of Health guidelines and notes that based on current knowledge of COVID-19 symptoms and modes of transmission, the likelihood of transmission when handling human remains is supposedly low. However, Health Minister Pavitra Devi Vanniyarachchi responded today that no decision on the issue can be expected before the final report is received from the expert committee appointed to advise the minister on the matter.
Civil society groups have been ramping up pressure on the government to revise the Ministry of Health's guidelines on the safe disposal of the remains of COVID-19 patients. In this backdrop, United Nations Resident Coordinator in Sri Lanka, Hannah Singer, has taken up the issue in a letter sent to Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa yesterday. In the letter, Singer reiterated the UN solidarity with the people of Sri Lanka and assured that its specialized agencies, funds and programs will continue providing support on the management of the pandemic. Singer also stated that recent media reports on the revision of the current prohibition on COVID-19 burials was encouraging and reiterated UN concerns on the Health Ministry's decision stipulating cremation as the only method of disposal of bodies suspected of COVID-19 infection. The letter also highlighted that the World Health Organization's updated interim guidance on 4th September 2020 on the safe management of COVID-19 dead noted that the likelihood of transmission when handling human remains is low based on current knowledge of the symptoms of COVID-19 and its main modes of transmission. She also stated that the common assumption that those who died of a communicable disease should be cremated to prevent spread is not supported by evidence, and that cremation remained a matter of cultural choice and available resources. Further, Singh also informed the Prime Minister of having received impassioned appeals from within and outside the Muslim community who perceive the government's policy on burials as discriminatory. This, she feared, would have a negative effect on social cohesion and adversely impact measures for containing the spread of the virus, as it may discourage people from accessing medical care if they display symptoms or have history of contact. Meanwhile, Minister of Health Pavitra Devi Vaniyarachi stated today that a decision will only be taken after the expert committee appointed to study the issues submits its final report, which could take another 2 months.
COVID-19 රෝගය වැළඳී මියගිය පුද්ගලයින්ගේ මූර්ත දේහය භූමදානය සම්බන්ධයෙන් විවිධ අයගෙන් ඉල්ලීම් ලැබී තිබෙනවා. නමුත් මේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් පත් කරන ලද විශේෂඥ කමිටුව තව වාර්තා කිහිපයක් මා වෙත ලබා දීමට නියමිතව තිබෙනවා. පසුගිය කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයේදී මෙම කාරණය සම්බන්ධයෙන් කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලය කිසිදු තීන්දුවක් ගනු ලැබුවේ නැහැ. කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලය මා වෙත දැන්නුම් දුන්නේ මේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් පත් කරන ලද විශේෂඥ කමිටුවේ වාර්තා අනුව කටයුතු කරන ලෙසයි. ඒ නිසා ඒ වාර්තා මා වෙත ලැබුණු පසු අවසාන තීන්දුව ගැනීමට බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා.
Now, Commander of the Sri Lanka Army Lieutenant General Shavindra Silva says that Sri Lankans stranded overseas will be systematically repatriated from next week. The Army Command added that Sri Lankans will be repatriated from foreign countries in batches. This announcement came after the Foreign Ministry took the stance to temporarily suspend the repatriation of Sri Lankan migrant workers last month due to the prevailing COVID-19 situation in the country. Repatriations were suspended due to limited space available in quarantine centres and hospitals treating COVID-19 patients. Now, people in some isolated areas may look forward to being set free tomorrow following a COVID-19 risk assessment. Chief of the National Operations Centre for the Prevention of COVID-19, Army Commander Lieutenant General Shavindra Silva made the announcement today while reassuring that the travel restrictions in and out of the Western Province will only last until midnight on Sunday. COVID-19 spread mitigation efforts have been ramped up, with operations continuing to net errant members of the public who violate quarantine curfew.
With COVID-19 cases emerging from the Western Province on the rise, the government decided to ban entry and exit from the province until midnight on Sunday, the 15th of November.
විශේෂයෙන්ම මේ තිබෙන තත්ත්වය වෙනත් ප්‍රදේශවලට යෑම වළක්වා ගැනීම සඳහා පමණයි මේ තත්ත්වය ඇති කරුණු ලැබුවේ. නමුත් ඒක අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම අපි මධ්‍යම රාත්‍රියේ 12ට ඉවත් කිරීමට කටයුතු කරනවාමයි. ඒත් එක්කම අපි හෙට දිනේදී සම්පූර්ණ මේ පිළිබඳ නැවත විශ්ලේෂණයක් කරලා ඔය බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනා දැනට හුදකලා කරලා තිබෙන ප්‍රදේශ අනවශ්‍යයි හෝ අවම පීඩනයක් තිබෙන ප්‍රදේශවලින් ඒ හුදකලාභාවය අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම අපි හෙට දවසේ බොහෝ ප්‍රදේශ ඉවත් කිරීමටත් අපි බලාපොරොත්තුවක් තිබෙනවා.
With travel in and out of the Western Province banned, all bus services in and out of the province too are suspended until the midnight on the 15th. However, some members of the public are left stranded, unable to travel outside the province. The travel restriction also led to the Department of Railways taking steps to restrict train services. General Manager of Railways Dilantha Fernando stated that the transport of passengers from Colombo to stations outside the Western Province is halted. Accordingly, trains will only travel as far as Aludgama, Ambepussa, Kochikade and Avisavilla, which are at the border of the Western Province. He also stated that all other regional trains will operate according to the usual schedule. General Manager of Railways added that all passenger trains will not be in operation during the weekend due to it being a public holiday. Meanwhile, operations are being carried out with the use of drones to identify members of the public who move about violating the quarantine curfew in isolated police areas.
An air operation was conducted by Sri Lanka Police along with the Sri Lanka Air Force. Yesterday, we arrested 15 suspects in this connection, and today we conducted the operation again and we have arrested 7 suspects in this connection. Altogether, 22 suspects have been arrested after the air operation and they are dealt with the quarantine law, and tomorrow, day after tomorrow, we are going to conduct the air operation by using helicopters and drone cameras in order to conduct surveillance upon the inmates who live in isolated or lockdown areas.
Just as yesterday, measures were taken today to turn away vehicles attempting to travel within isolated areas. Despite continued insistence of health authorities of the serious nature of the virus, our cameras captured more evidence of the health warnings falling on deaf ears.
A former additional director at the Department of Social Services had ignored due protocol when giving the Hira Foundation certification of its previous registration. The Hira Foundation is heavily linked to former Eastern Province Governor MLAM Hizbullah and has come under severe scrutiny since the Easter Sunday terror attacks of last year. During today's proceedings of the Presidential Commission, which is probing the massacre, it was revealed that there are also other discrepancies in the Hira Foundation's registration.
The proceedings of the Presidential Commission of Inquiry probing the Easter Sunday terror attacks resumed today under the stipulated health and safety protocols following a hiatus since the 27th of last month. The focus of the commission today was on the Hira Foundation, which is identified as a social service organization of former governor of the Eastern Province, MLAM Hizbullah. The first to give evidence today was Social Services Officer Dhammika Vasala Bandara from the Department of Social Services. He told the Commission that a file at the Department of Social Services indicate that the Hira Foundation has been registered with it on the 9th of September in 1993. He, however, noted that he observes an unusual difference between the registration numbers of several social services organizations and that of the Hira Foundation registered during that time. The witness added that the address on the Hira Foundation's registration certificate and the one given to the Department of Social Services as the foundation's location contradict. The State Council then asked the witness whether the Department of Social Services possesses an application submitted by the Hira Foundation seeking registration as a social services organization. The witness's response was that the department does not have such a document and that there aren't any other files at the department which confirms the registration of the Hira Foundation. He added that in the year 1999, the powers of registering NGOs were taken away from the Department of Social Services and given to the National Secretariat for Non-Governmental Organizations. Though that was the case, the witness said that the Hira Foundation had made a request on the 21st of July in 2011 from the Department of Social Services for a certification of its former registration. He revealed that though the department did not have any powers pertaining to NGOs by then, an additional director there named HMM Zamir had issued a certificate confirming the Hira Foundation's previous registration. Next up, giving evidence was the former additional director at the Department of Social Services, HMM Zamir, the very person whose name was mentioned by the previous witness. In response to the questions raised by the Commission, Zamir said that he should not have issued a document certifying the prior registration without due diligence on the registration history.
Proceedings from today's parliamentary session will be brought to you on the other side of this break. Stay with us.
Ceylon Bank, the bank with a heart.
Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, during the adjournment debate in Parliament today, State Minister of Production, Supply and Regulation of Pharmaceuticals, Professor Channa Jayasumana, brushed off claims by the opposition of the government arbitrarily granting tenders for the importation, of rapid antigen test kits. The State Minister told the opposition that they have got their facts mixed up. Meanwhile, also speaking during the adjournment debate, TNA parliamentarian M.A. Sumandiran said that the government's existing laws are insufficient to effectively respond to COVID-19.
ටෙන්ඩර් එක තාම කිසිදු සමාගමකට රාජ්‍යාංශයෙන් ලබා දීලා නැහැ. එකදු රැපිඩ් ඇන්ටිජන් ටෙස්ට් කට්ටලයක් හෝ මේ වනතෙක් රාජ්‍යාංශයෙන් මිලදී අරන් නැහැ. සත පහක් හෝ ඒ සඳහා වියදම් කරලා නැහැ මේ වනතෙක්. ඉතාලම කිව්ම අපි ඒක කියනවා. තාක්ෂණික ඇගයීම් කමිටුවේ වාර්තාව අනුව ටෙන්ඩරේ ප්‍රධානය වෙන්නේ කාටද කියන එක තීරණය කරනවා. එතකොට දැන් ඔබතුමාලා පටලවාගෙන තියෙනවා මේ පෞද්ගලික අංශය සඳහා ගෙනාපු එකත් එක්ක. මේක තමයි මෙන්න පැහැදිලි කිරීම. ද ලෝක සෞඛ්‍ය සංවිධානයේ මම කිව්වා රැපිඩ් ඇන්ටිජන් ටෙස්ට් සඳහා මේ ඇබොට් සමාගමත් SD බයෝසෙන්සර් කියන සමාගමත් තමයි මේ රැපිඩ් ඇන්ටිජන් ටෙස්ට් එක හදන්නේ. මේ සමාගම් දෙකේම ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ නියෝජිතයා හැටියට කටයුතු කරන්නේ ජෝර්ජ් ස්ටුවර්ට් සමාගම. ඒක අදයිය වෙච්ච දෙයක් නෙමෙයි. එක සමාගමක 2008 ඉඳනුත් අනිත් එක 2016 ඉඳනුත් කරනවා. එතකොට ඒ ලියාපදිංචිය දීලා තියෙන්නේ ඔය කියන ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ පෞද්ගලික සමාගමට මේ අපේ ආණ්ඩුව ආවට පස්සේ නෙමෙයි. විශේෂයෙන්ම රාජසේනාරත්න ඇමතුමා සෞඛ්‍ය ඇමති වෙලා කාලෙදී තමයි මේ ලියාපදිය දීලා තියෙන්නේ.
We don't have a law to deal with public health emergency. We have outdated laws like the quarantine ordinance and contagious diseases ordinance. I want to table a draft that I have submitted as a private member's motion. This need not be adopted, but something in these lines need to be taken because laws are insufficient to deal with the current crisis. I wrote to the Human Rights Commission. The Human Rights Commission wrote to the Secretary to the President making certain recommendations. In that letter, they have very clearly stated that what is being imposed in the country, calling it curfew, is not lawful and that it needs to be regularized. Government has been advised under the Human Rights Commission Act. They have analyzed all the laws that are extant in the country at present and made certain recommendations. Even with regard to the importation of rapid antigen test kits and all of that, all this issue has arisen because there is no proper law to deal with this. So far, the government has mismanaged this. When the first wave came, the concern of the government was to quickly have the elections. When the second wave came, the concern of the government to somehow have the 20th Amendment passed.
TNA MP Sumandiran also accused the government of using the COVID-19 virus as an excuse to deny the people of the North and East their freedom to commemorate their fallen.
Our country has also had to, unfortunately, go through a 3-decade war. There are people in the North and East whose dear ones fought the war against the state and have fallen. And it is in the month of November that they remember those dead. I know that the JVP founder Rohana Vijayveera is allowed to be commemorated. But unfortunately, even in the remembrance of the dead, there is discrimination. I apprehend authorities using COVID-19 as a ruse to stop people going to the cemeteries where their loved ones are buried and pay homage. So I'm urging the government to act magnanimously and not use the COVID-19 situation or anything else to prevent legitimate commemoration.
We will see you once more on the other side of this break. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is First at 9. Now, the Treasury guarantee on loans to state corporations and private entities from banks has been raised to 15% of the GDP. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa announced this measure in Parliament while he presented a 2020 appropriation bill yesterday.
The government has announced a hike in Treasury guarantees to 15% of gross domestic product to support loans from banks or other lenders to state corporations or private entities. The hike is a 330% increase of the original limit set by the Fiscal Responsibility Law of 2003 that limited fiscal profligacy, making it difficult to understate and hide budget deficits. The original 2003 law set a limit of 4.5% of GDP for Treasury guarantees for a year and a 65% of GDP national debt by 2013 and deficit of 5%. Prime Minister and Finance Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa told Parliament during the presentation of the Appropriation Bill 2020 yesterday that the Treasury guarantee limit would be raised to 15% of GDP with another 180 billion rupees added to the borrowing limit for 2020.
Taking a look at the Colombo bourse, Sri Lankan shares posted losses for a second straight session today, weighed by industrials and communications services stocks. The benchmark all-share price index ended 0.14% lower after gaining 0.04% this week, while the S&P SL20 index fell 0.09%. Now let's take a look at how the market traded throughout the week.
Today we saw again the market slightly coming down by around 9 points with the ASPI hitting 6,082. In addition, we saw the SLP SL20 also marginally declining by around 2 points to end at 2,401. So we are seeing a rather mixed activity, a week where there has been ups and downs, and today we are seeing a downtrend similar to yesterday. So what we are experiencing is a slow and stagnant market conditions just before the upcoming budget. So we are experiencing some of the investor community is on a more wait and see approach, expecting at the outcome of the budget. So we feel that this slowness is likely to continue until the budget. Also, in addition to that, we are seeing profit taking in some of the retail favorite.
The rupee, meanwhile, closed weaker at 184 rupees and 75 to 80 cents to the US dollar in spot market today, after closing at 184 rupees and 58 to 60 cents yesterday. Let's now take a look at how the rupee fared against other major currencies during the day. And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.